Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor and I am behind schedule. My lower back is still killing me. I woke up this morning and it's one of those moments where you have to like be really quickly stand up so that your lower back doesn't tighten up. Oof, it happens every once in a while, but it is really it's like one of the worst pains in the world when your lower back just seizes up. And it's like you have to just walk around slowly all day. Anyway, I wanted to remind everybody, Link2 is, they've still got a little bit of PolySign on the platform. They are one of my sponsors. My largest holdings, just so you know, on the Link2 platform my largest would be Uphold, PolySign, and Link2. I do have some Ripple too. I got in Ripple a little later, so it's a little more expensive of a price. I like buying the things that I can get a lot of pretty cheap. So anyway, but these guys have been, it's linked to, I've been reading, these guys have been having like a record year in the midst of all this because I think people are loading up on some of these blockchain equities while the blood's in the streets. And I think it's a smart call. Now, this is from AMB Crypto, and you don't see these from them too often, but they had price predictions for 2025 and for 2030. And they're getting this from Changly. I think the people that run Changly are Bitcoin maxis. So these numbers, who knows, but the 2030 I totally disagree with. Changly has provided a range between $1.47 and $1.76. That's by 2025. And then 2030, they believe that the crypto finders experts could believe that the crypto could hit $4.98 by 2030. Look, folks, if this lawsuit ends favorably, $4.98, not in 2030, but as in right now, would be chump change. So I think they are way, way off, even if the lawsuit didn't go their way. Remember, the XRP ledger is a global phenomenon. Even if it didn't go their way, over time, the utility of this should dwarf that. Anyway, then we got this. Just in MicroStrategy has purchased an additional 2,500 Bitcoin. This guy is doubling, tripling, quadrupling down. I hope he's right because I think the whole industry will do well if his bet pays off. Class action lawsuit alleges Gemini sold interest-bearing accounts that it failed to register as securities. And John Deaton is calling it right here. We've been saying it for years now. He says, are you paying attention? Goldman Gary will sue an exchange claiming most of the tokens are unregistered securities, and the crypto market will crash further. Incumbent players will get to buy in and get a larger share. So what he's going to do is he's going to start suing some of these crypto exchanges. The prices and the values of them, for example, Coinbase. If he sued Coinbase, what's going to happen to their stock price? And then what's going to happen? Somebody like Goldman, his buddies, are going to come in and buy it. We've already seen the business model, folks. We've already seen the Gary Gensler business model. Remember, he's working with FTX. He sues BlockFi, gets a $100 million settlement, crushes BlockFi. Who comes in and buys it on the cheap? And then uses this. And then once FTX comes in to buy BlockFi, then they've got enough money for Gary Gensler to be paid off the $100 million settlement, which they should have to return now. But do you see how this works? Well, John goes on. Fidelity with 10 trillion assets under management files a trademark application for NFT marketplace and crypto trading service. HSBC files a trademark for virtual currency exchange. Then you remember this. Nobody can forget this with Tim Draper and Gary on stage.
You can just hear the bankers panicking right now. And then they all line up and they wrap their arms together.
Folks, do you understand what the Gary Genslers of the world are for now? They put these people in place. His job was to intentionally keep this whole crypto industry vague so that everybody had to guess what to do. What did that do? It bought time for Gary's Wall Street buddies. It bought time for them to get their custody in place. It bought time for them to be able to accumulate and to get ready. And then Gary is going to drop the hammer on all the startups so that he can hand the industry over to Wall Street. And all of a sudden, they're going to raise their hands and they're going to say, hey, we're Wall Street. You can trust us. We're not like these shady places that keep getting hacked. We have real custody in place. The same kind of custody that we have been doing for 100 years with your stock certificates. So you don't have to worry anymore. We're here to save the day. That is what Gary was for. That's why he was put there. He even tells us right here in this clip, John Deaton was asking if anybody had the MIT clip where Gary is talking about the fintech or the disruptor or startup must give up 50%.
One central monopolist with another central monopolist, a lot of commercial banks aren't terribly excited about that. Maybe you're going to have to give some ownership. Maybe you'll have to give 50% of your ownership to the 20 banks.
Maybe they're going to send me to be the SEC chairman to make sure that we hold you hostage and that you give a certain percentage of your ownership. Maybe they're going to send me to the SEC so that I can carry out a 2-year lawsuit against Ripple and hold Ripple over a barrel until they pay up or pay some of the XRP to my monopolistic friends on Wall Street. Do you see the picture?
That are now, part of this. I mean, there are other ways to build incentive systems. Maybe you put a native token in there, and you give them the native token. So there may be other incentive ways to beat the current monopolist, but I haven't.
Payoff, mafia. I mean, that's what we're talking about, folks. All right, look at this. Turns out Bitcoin is 100 times more centralized than XRP. Here's these are the mining pools. Foundry, there's only like 4 or 5 of them that control most of the hash rate. Then if you look over here at XRP, these are the validators. There's like a lot more than there are Bitcoin. Bitcoin is more centralized than XRP, and that's the dirty little secret. Well, the official cool guy has given us another dirty little secret. Follow this through. If the SEC goes after other projects, are they entitled to the Hinman emails? If the SEC only mentioned Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP in the emails, wouldn't it be irrelevant if they weren't mentioned? In other words, those emails could be used for a Ripple settlement, but then part of the agreement could be that they're sealed, and then in all future cases where none of the others were mentioned, what if... What if that's how this goes down? What if Ripple settles by saying, we'll agree for you to seal those emails, and you can seal the emails, you give us clarity for XRP, and all of a sudden, what happens? Bitcoin, I guess Ethereum, and XRP, the only things with clarity, and everybody else has a big fat target on their back going forward and can't even use the emails in their lawsuits when they get sued by the SEC. John Deaton, in 2023, the SEC versus Ripple case settles or goes to verdict. Let's do a refresh and see what his poll is at. Turns out 59.3% think that this will be settled. I'm in that camp. And then XRP Iceman says, John, what say you? He says, I'll give my 2023 prediction after the poll. Plus, before giving it, I'm reading a couple of Judge Torres or other summary judgment rulings to try and gain some limited insight, emphasis on the word limited. So this thing's got 9 hours left, and then John Deaton's going to give us his XRP lawsuit predictions. Now, I totally missed this. Remember when I showed on this channel, Chris Giancarlo, who's the ex-CFTC guy, he was in the meeting between Gary Gensler and FTX. Well, I didn't know that he engineered it. This is from a Financial Times article. Oddly enough, Giancarlo makes no mention on his website of having been hired by SBF to engineer an introduction to the SEC chair and his predecessor at the CFTC, Gary Gensler. Here's what Giancarlo told the Daily Mail about this recently. My role in this was to make the formal introduction in a formal fashion through the front door, fully disclosed. He added, I cannot comment on the nature of the firm's relationship with this client other than to say currently FTX is not a client of the firm. Giancarlo is now a senior counsel at Wilkie Barr. Now, I'm not saying Chris Giancarlo did anything wrong by doing that. I'm just saying I didn't know it, okay? Now, this came out this morning too. Alameda has started dumping tokens. So right about the time Sam Bankman-Fried gets home, Alameda is apparently unloading a lot of the tokens. That should be interesting. Now, here's something you may not have known. Remember Mark, how do you say his last name? Wetjen? I don't know. Anyway, he was at the CFTC when Gary Gensler was the commissioner of the CFTC, okay? Just happens to go on to be the general counsel of FTX. And of course, Gary Gensler just happened to teach at MIT, where Caroline Ellison of Alameda, her dad was Gary Gensler's boss at MIT. These are all coincidences, folks, okay? Well, turns out Gary Gensler had given FTX a broker-dealer license. I didn't know that.
A lot of the listeners might already know this, is in the testimony from Sam, but we already have 4 CFTC licenses in the United States. We have licenses in the EU. We have a broker-dealer license from the SEC in the United States. So clearly that signals there's no issue on the part of FTX with being licensed or registered at the federal level of any sovereign jurisdiction.
Broker-dealer license from the SEC. And then there's this. This is Gary Gensler and Mark Wetjen. Now think about this for a minute. Run this through your mind. Both of these guys. Now these are the regulators, folks. These are the people running the regulatory agencies of the United States. CFTC, SEC, okay? Both of them, quote, missed, which is a question mark for me. Gary Gensler, as the SEC chairman, is having planning sessions with these people, and he missed this massive fraud. Mark Wetjen, who was with the CFTC and then became general counsel, totally missed that there's this massive multi-billion-dollar fraud going on at FTX. If you give them 1,000% benefit of the doubt, you kick their butts out of these guys would never, they would be banished to never be anywhere near a regulatory agency of any kind in the United States, especially Gary, because he presided over MF Global at the CFTC too. They wouldn't be anywhere near being a regulator or a chairman of anything after this. But no, everything's cool. Nobody's held accountable, no nothing. And that's if you give them a full benefit of the doubt. If you give them no benefit of the doubt, this thing looks real shady on both of them. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that guys like this would be out on their butts a long time ago for incompetence, unless it almost appears like it's by design. Sure does. Otherwise, you'd fire their